Thank you so much for joining us tonight. My name is Julie, and I have the pleasure of interviewing one of my all-time favorite pin designers. So, everyone, this is Jen.
Hi everyone, the person behind Designs by Genn.
First, delve right into pins because I think that's, everyone's
Yeah.
fascination, and they want to know more about pins. So, what inspired you to create your own pins?
So what ended up inspiring me to kind of do it, I started in 2018, it was December, and I had already had two close friends of mine that were fantasy pin creators. So I had a little bit more of an advantage, I would say, than some people in the sense that I was in a circle of people that were already creating and had established their businesses. What inspired me to do it was more so create pins that I've never seen done before. So there was a lot of pins in my own collections that I wanted to get made, and I would constantly suggest things to my friends, and then one day I just was like, why don't I just make it? It's not. I have to start somewhere, and if I'm gonna dive into this, I should just do it, make it for myself. And if I have people that back me up on the design, I'm forever grateful. But my first design was a Polka Wonder Woman, and I made it because I absolutely love Pocahontas. I love what she stands for, and Wonder Woman is one of my favorite comic characters. So it just having the mashup, I felt like it just blended so well. Here are these two strong, independent women who are just warriors of themselves, and to be honest, I mean, fearful in the sense of men probably feared them.
You said you had some friends that did this. You made the leap from being a collector to a designer because people really were not making the pins that you wanted. Was there any other reason?
So I kind of went into also creating pins because I wanted to be a creator that wasn't like the rest. I wanted to really treat this like an actual business, and I wanted to carry myself as a business. And I didn't want people to feel like they didn't deserve top-notch service because you're paying a lot of money for these products. You're not paying 20, $10. These aren't Etsy pins. These are $50+ pins that you're spending a lot of money on. And so there needs to be some accountability for creators. And so when I started, I did start also because I needed an outlet, but I also wanted to make pins that people didn't really have for myself. But I also wanted to create a business for myself and create standards that hopefully other creators followed in my footsteps. And some of them have, and I'm really grateful. I think it creates a more positive environment in the fantasy pin community. It creates a better trust for a customer to know that you're a legitimate business and that you're going to uphold those values and uphold that accountability for yourself. So I think that was really my main goal also.
So out of maybe the 150 to 200 pins, which one is your favorite? Is it?
Ooh. So my favorite, and I I feel like my pins that are coming in now that are brand new because I've adapted a lot and I've learned a lot as a creator. I think that's a part of, if it contributes to your growth, it's a part of growing and learning what works and what doesn't. So I will actually say my favorite pins that I've created of all time, even though I've created so many aerial designs, I have to say hands down it's my Vanessa profile. I've honestly never have seen such a beautiful pin in my life. It's kind of unreal that I've created it. It's one of those moments of wow, this is sort of the growth. But I would say hands down it's this pin. Even though I've made 200 plus and I have so many other designs, um, this is for sure. I think like I look at it and I'm just like, wow.
Do you have visions of what you want your pin to be, and then you kind of tell him like, oh, hey, this is kind of what I was thinking about, or maybe you like kind of sketch something, and then you're like, hey, what do you think? Or does he do most of it? I don't know how it works between you.
Sure. No, of course. I'd love to tell you. So I used to be very specific, but slowly I learned to kind of let that go. And I definitely tell him what I want. I make suggestions, but he has the creative freedom to kind of go all out. And I'm grateful that he trusts me to execute those designs into pins. But yeah, I give him the concept, and then I tell him like the logos, for example, or I tell him the colors sometimes, but most of the time it's 100% his creative freedom. He's a creative genius, that guy. I tell you, it's kind of, it's a little, I'm grateful to have him as an artist. And a lot of people ask me, they're like, did you tell him to just work with you? Actually, I didn't. So a lot of people think that I told him I wanted him to just work with me. It was a decision that he made on his own because of the amount of work I had available for him. And I think also just the partnership. We ended up becoming really good friends, and it's developed 100% like a partnership between us.
I'm sure there are so many creators that are like, I wish I had that. That's
Yeah,
amazing.
no. I mean, like I used to, so a little bit before I worked with Georgie, I worked with another artist, which she had her own creative flair. And she actually did my Space Buns series, which is the one that you love, the Moana. And with her, I had to be very specific. I couldn't give her that creative freedom because it was like I was very new and I wanted to have a lot of structure, and I didn't have that kind of relationship with her. I didn't write her to ask her how her day was, and we weren't friends. It was very business structured. It was, I paid you, this is what I want, and she would sketch it and I would change things if I wanted to, and then it was the final product in a few days. So it was, but I also have had hardships where I've worked with some artists and they've taken 3 to 4 weeks to create a design, and it's a nightmare, and it's like pulling teeth, and so every person is different. So I'm grateful to have the partnership that I have with Georgie, but I don't think our pins and our products would be the way that they are if it wasn't for our friendship and our understanding, and honestly our love for Disney. He is obsessed with Disney, and I can't make that up. And I think that that definitely puts artists that love Disney, their art is a little bit more special. No offense to the artists who don't love Disney, but the art is a little more special when they love it, and I think you can tell with our pins and our artwork and Georgie's artwork. It's just his soul is there, and I have a strong belief in that.
How do you decide on a series?
Mhm.
Because I think, you if you love Pocahontas or you love Ariel, then you are probably like, oh, I want to make these pins. But then when it comes to creating a series, I'm like, wow, how does someone get that idea? I find it amazing. So I would love to hear about the the concepts that you come up with for these amazing series.
So, my noir series, I will probably start with my noir because I would say that my Space Funds and my noir series kind of put me on the map. I would say as a creator, it definitely brought more people to my platform and more people that were interested. My Space Fun series started because I love wearing space buns in general in my hair, and it's a very hipster kind of vibe type of look you get. And I just in my head pictured it. It was kind of ironic because I just said to myself, like, what if the princesses were in space and they had space buns? It was more of a joke idea. And then I was like, hey, why don't I just do a design? Like, why not? Why don't I commission an artist and see what they come up with, and I can have a lot of fun with it because you can wear space buns in different types of ways. So that's why I like my designs with the space buns. They're all wearing different styles of buns. Like some of them have their hair down, some of them have the full up hair, like Mulan with the chopsticks in her hair, and so it's just like little stuff. And I figured that I could make the galaxies resemble colors that match those princesses and kind of give it that vibe, that cohesive art kind of look. But the Space Buns collection was a total, I know it sounds horrible, but it was a total joke of an idea that I kind of had. And I was happy that people followed and wanted them because it was more of like, why don't they just have space buns in space? It's so ridiculous now because I look back and I'm like, why would they be in space? You know? But I love the idea of having a little bit more of a girly flair and some fun to it. And then my noirs actually happened because I was actually looking at old vintage photos of Marilyn Monroe. It's like I don't know if you ever walked into your grandparents' house or something, but glam shots from the old times. They were all black and white and they were so stunning, and it was always like a shoulder pose, and it was always a very glamorous picture. And I love those pictures. And I remember telling Georgie, I said, what if we made like, and it was supposed to be just the princesses. So it was just going to be the main prince. It was supposed to be 5 pins. We weren't even supposed to make 50. It was supposed to be just 5. And I fell in love with vintage Hollywood portfolio shots, and so I sent him all these pictures of like Audrey Hepburn and Rita Hayward, and I was just obsessed with their look. And I said, what if we made it so that the princesses were wearing vintage clothes? And it was black and white, and it had one pop of color because I had just watched Sin City at the same time.
Mhm.
So I was like, oh, I love the pop of color, but I didn't want to make like a violent series because Sin City's a violent movie. But I was like, what if we just did it that way, vintage with a pop of color? And it was originally going to be called Color Pop. And then I remember when I first released it, somebody replied in the comment, like, there's a cosmetic brand named Color Pop. You can't use it. And I was like, oh man, thank you for telling me. So that was actually going to be the original. It was going to be Color Pop, like vintage Color Pop. But then I decided on noirs because I figured black and white film, action, but they're not really crime style. I feel kind of bad that I've named them noirs because they're not crime style. Like they're very Hollywood glam. But the name was so catchy and it was like super easy. And I was like, oh, I'll just do it this way. It looks like a glam shot from a old film.
So who are your first 5 then? Do you know off the top of your head?
Yes. So the first one I released was it was Aurora. So it actually started with Aurora, and she was completely inspired by Rita Hayward with her victory buns, the very top of her hair, and even her eyebrows, and even the mole we added on her face. So she is hands down the first one and very vintage. From there, I remember Georgie telling me, well, how can we do the girls and not have the dashing men to go with them? And then it was actually Georgie's idea to create the guys and have them looking at each other. So it's exactly like a vintage portrait, like you would see going to your family's house of your grandparents or a family member where the photos were looking at each other.
Mhm.
Like, kind of like it was totally planned, and it's in the corner, it's a little oval shape. So it went from there. So I give credit to Georgie because he pushed me to want to do the men and create them in glam also. But the first 5 were Aurora, Prince Philip, Ariel, Eric, and then I did Belle and Adam. So after that, we kind of fell in line with the rest of them. And after that, now we're at 50. I mean, now we even have Star Wars. Um, so it's like it's taken over on its own. I definitely want to end that series. I'm gonna be really sad to end it.
On your LE pins, how do you decide, like, because I know with your grandmother Willow, you were thinking about making it like a smaller LE size.
Yeah,
Um, and then everyone was like, no, please don't
make
do
it
it.
an OE.
Do you look at it and go, okay, Ariel, everyone loves Ariel, right? I mean, she's probably one of the most popular princesses. So I'm going to make a higher LE of her. I don't know. That's just my question.
One of the things that I think determines the LE for me is I usually follow suit. So I tend to kind of do some research. I see what other creators are creating as LE sizes, and I kind of go based on that. I definitely would love to up my LE to give an opportunity for more people to have. And also, having a bigger LE means that I can cut the cost of the pre-sale or of the product because I'm ordering more. So I'd love to have that, but I also need to know that there is a demand for it, because I don't want to end up ordering 200 of these pins or 100 of these pins and then I only sell 50. Then it's kind of like, oh man, I'm stuck with 50.
Right.
And then technically it becomes an LE 50 because there's only 50 in the market, but in the back it says LE 100. And then people judge. I mean, I feel like people determine values based on LEs, which to me, I feel like it's a very old school way of trading, because that's how it was with authentic pins. You look at the LE and that determines a little bit of the value. I hope people determine the value more based on interest and the product that you're getting, the quality of the product. But to each his own. Everyone trades however they want to trade. I can't judge people on how they trade, but my LEs are determined just based on other creators and the demand.
We're going to go back in time and give yourself one piece of advice about pin making. What would it be?
I could go back, I would say your customers are not your friends, because unfortunately there are people out there who tend to want to become your friends for the bad, for the wrong reasons, not because of who you are. And secondly, I'm not always going to satisfy everyone, even though I want to. So I think that I carry a lot of the disappointment when I have one customer that's disappointed in me. I could have 99 customers that are happy, and I have one customer that isn't, and I carry that with me for the whole day or for the whole week. So I would definitely say you're not going to satisfy everyone, and that's okay. You know, if I'm doing the best that I can, then just not to beat myself up about it. So that's probably the advice I would give myself if I could go back. I learned that the hard way, very hard way.
But that's very good advice. Yeah, and people have to remember, like, this is your second job, right? Like,
Yes.
you have a full-time job and you have a second-time job,
Yes.
and you don't have an army of people. I think that sometimes people get so like, oh, I can't believe I didn't get this, and it sucks,
Yeah.
but that's the name of the game, right? Like, if you're buying something that's an LE of 50, how many people are in the fantasy pen world? There's a lot.
Yeah.
And so it's important to remember that you're not going to get every pen you want. But again, also the name of the game is to trade, right?
Yeah.
Like that's part of
Yeah.
the fun part. So people have to remember, like, this is your business, and you need to treat it like your business. Because if you don't, then you're going to end up probably going
Quitting.
belly up, and nobody wants that. So I don't know.
Oh
Or
no, no. If I'm 100% honest and transparent, there were many times last year where I did want to give up. I felt like this was too much for me mentally. I felt mentally drained. I felt used by a lot of people, and I felt disappointed in myself, and I felt disappointed in other people, and so it just kind of all hit me at once, and it was overwhelming for me for a good while. It became something where I hated doing what I was doing, and I didn't jump into making pins to hate it. I jumped into it because I wanted to have something fun to do, and I wanted to bring positivity and joy to other people. It was a lot for me, and I considered quitting. I was like, I'm just going to be done. I'm going to ship the rest of my pins, and I'm just going to focus on my job because, like you said, I have a full-time job. This isn't something I depend on. I have a career. But I'm glad I didn't give up. I'm glad that there was people around me at the time that really said, don't do it. Don't let the bad people take you out, because there's 99 people that love you and one person that doesn't. And that goes with just my personality in general. I'm a very people pleasing type of person. So I'm learning to also realize that within myself, to not let that get to me.
what collections do you have? Like side collections or main collections?
Sure. So I've been fantasy pin collecting. I've been doing it for 2 years. Authentic pins I've collected for 8 years. My main collections are Ariel, Pocahontas. I have a small Pascal collection. It's very small. I like mini pins. So anything that's like tiny and it has like Pascal or Bruni, I'm all for it. I just think they're adorable. But I also have a small Pegasus collection, very tiny too. Anything that's like mini is super cute.
We kind of had talked a little bit about your collection that you have. Do you have a grail that you are in search of?
Yes. Yes. So I'm in between. Okay. So obviously the designer mermaids are
Oof.
everyone's grail status. But I didn't plan to collect the Ariel variants, but I am in search of the Seafoam designer mermaid Ariel, which is very sparkly. It's all glitter. I love it. It's got like purple blue stained glass. So that I would say is my grail status. My authentic grail for a long time was designer Ariel, which is where the designer mermaid series kind of got its spark or inspiration from. But I managed to get that last year, so it's in my collection. So I knocked it off of the checklist.